Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. I know folks are still hopping in, but we're going to go ahead and get started with today's community council meeting. So we do welcome and appreciate all of you. Thank you for joining us today. We do have a pretty full agenda, but I'm really going to try and get y'all out of here within an hour and not take the full 90 minutes that we do have allocated for these meetings. So just a quick recap, welcoming everybody into the space to join us today. We do have some new council business from our Devices and Connectivity Committee, so we're very excited about that. Then sharing out a few updates about all the kind of end of the year excitement with Connect 313. And then we will just close out, talking about some of those upcoming things. So we're going to keep this moving pretty quickly up at the top here. We always like to kind of recap like what is Connect 313. It's more than the collaborative. It is a citywide data-driven digital inclusion strategy. So we have many partners involved. The ones on the screen are kind of our core founding members, but everybody has an important part to play in building that digital inclusion strategy for Detroiters, because that's what Detroiters deserve. We have our mission, we have our culture and values. It's really built on moving together at the speed of trust. That's one of the core values that we always talk about. And we always want to make sure that we are involving the voice of the community, which is why these council meetings are so important. Just reiterating, the purpose of these council meetings is to develop those Connect 313 values. As we talk about the mission and values of the collaborative, we really want to make sure that we're holding all of the recommendations that are coming in via the committees to those values. We really want this space to be the space where we are incorporating the voice of the community, the voice of all of our members into those recommendations. So we really want to hear from you and provide that community sentiment on any of the recommendations that are moving forward. And of course, to share the work of the committees and raise awareness of these opportunities to participate, which is especially important today as we're going to be talking about the nomination and election process, either through a leadership role, through nomination, or as a committee member, because we will be reforming the committees at the beginning of next year, as we do every year. And we always want to look for opportunities to incorporate more community members in our process. So I've actually brought this up this is usually at the end of the slide deck, but I brought this up at the beginning because this is our last council meeting of the year. So I wanted to highlight for folks that today is the day to provide some of that community sentiment, that community voice, and really provide your feedback on the ideas you're going to hear about today. Because these 3 recommendations that we will be reviewing will be presented to the Joint Assembly December 1st, and for recommendations over 50K, they will then be presented to the board in early 2023. So, just making sure that everyone is on the same page about the timeline of when decisions will be made on these ideas. So we really want to hear from you today on those ideas. Jumping right in to that new council business, just confirming that we have Mr. Underwood on the line. I still see some folks hopping in here because we do have 3 recommendations from the Devices and Connectivity Committee to present. Sorry, I'm sharing my screen. David, is Mr. Underwood on the line?
I don't see him in there yet unless he's calling on another device.
Yeah, if you're calling in, Mr. Underwood, would you mind unmuting yourself?
Yeah. I don't think he's here yet.
Okay.
We can just go back to him in the agenda.
Yes, we can move forward. I'll just unshare this part. So just reiterating that we do have 3 recommendations from the Devices and Connectivity Committee, 2 of which will definitely be going to the Joint Assembly for a decision, and 1 of which will go to the Joint Assembly and potentially the board after that. So we really do want to hear from y'all about any feedback you have on those. Oh, I want to present from the one that I have selected. Hey, Zoom, can you get out of here so I can? Present. No, okay, that's fine. Okay, hopping into our council updates. I can talk a little bit about the annual review. I know I've been talking about this a lot, but it is very important to us to really capture that information from all of you, and it does close relatively soon. Today is the 10th, and the survey does close on the 18th. So you do still have some time to fill out that survey. And those highlights will be presented at our final community conversation of the year, which is on December 8th at 2 p.m. And we just wanted to give a quick progress report out that we have already received almost twice as many responses as we did last year. So we are very appreciative of all of you who have taken the time to fill out that survey. And there are still a few remaining gift cards for those first 50 eligible respondents, because we are asking people to fill out that kind of like secondary survey to keep their responses anonymous for the gift cards. We have not had, every single person who has filled out the form to request a gift card. So we do still have a few left, and we are, really excited that we're able to offer people a little bit of an incentive and, just like respect people's time in this way. So we wanted to highlight that opportunity is still available, and we are still really, really excited about learning about everybody's experience over the course of the year and where they really want to see Connect 313 go next year. Just kind of reiterating, some of the things that we heard last year were around communication, accessibility, community engagement, and improving the way that we were kind of intaking ideas and recommendations. And some of those key takeaways that we learned as a result of last year's review were that we really needed to hone in on developing our communication strategy, which led to our contract with our PR team, which has allowed us to really provide a lot more of those videos, have much more of a social media presence, have our blog be updated and really hone in on those opportunities for storytelling. That has also improved our regular newsletters, which you all should be receiving. And we have a lot more content on our social media, so our messages are much more consistent and clear. We have made information a lot more accessible. It's in our website, it's in Teams, it's on our social media. We have really been working hard to make sure that people have access to that intel. And as we launch the neighborhood tech hubs, we'll have more material be accessible out in the community as well, which leads us into creating more meaningful opportunities to engage with Connect 313 through the Neighborhood Tech Hub network. We will have a lot more kind of community-facing aspects of Connect 313 in addition to our community ambassadors, which will be known as community organizers under their new name, which also creates more opportunities for folks to ask questions and engage directly with us. All of those neighborhood tech hubs will now have a physical suggestion box in addition to being able to direct people to the suggestion box on our website. So we're really trying to open the door and make it much more accessible for folks to be able to connect with us. And implementing that roadmap to guide committees through this process to be able to receive suggestions from the community, really use the design thinking approach to process those suggestions into recommendations, and then bring those recommendations back to this group, to the council, to get more of that community feedback before anything goes to the Joint Assembly or the board to vote on. We always want to make sure that we're hearing from you first before we're bringing anything to a decision-making body. All right, just double checking. David, has Mr. Underwood been able to join us? I don't want to hop right into this.
You can continue to talk about nominations.
Okay, great. Because I know that some of the chairs who were planning to present, I don't think they were able to come until 2:30. So I don't want to get too far into this. But yes, we do have our nominations open currently. So the nomination period is from November 1st through the 30th. Which means that the form is available on our website. We have a little bit of a video explainer kind of walking you through that process. We have some FAQs that are up there to just make sure that all of your questions are answered about the nomination process. But essentially, you just fill out a form. You can fill it out based on yourself and answer all of the questions, or you can suggest that another person that you know, maybe in your network, maybe one of your coworkers or your family members or friends that you think would be a really strong committee leader, you can nominate them. And then we will reach out to that individual, and if they are interested, we will request that they fill out the nomination form on their own behalf so that they are able to provide all of the answers to the questions that will go into their candidate profile. So once those candidate profiles are developed, we will post them on our website, and we'll post them on Election Buddy, which is the platform where the election actually takes place. And Election Buddy will open for people to be able to start voting on December 8th, right after the community conversation. So the candidates will have an opportunity during that community conversation on December 8th to, kind of pitch themselves a little bit, talk about why they're excited to be a candidate, talk about why they're interested in that particular committee. So we will open the floor to those candidates at that time. And then after the community conversation, we will push out Election Buddy, and everybody will have an opportunity to vote. That voting window is, a little bit longer than the one that we had a couple days ago. So it's not just a one-day kind of thing. It goes through the entire remainder of December. So those votes will not be tallied up until early next year. And then in January, we will reach out to the candidates who, received the most votes. Those folks will, accept their candidacy or accept their election, and we will present out all of the new committee leaders at that time. And then those committee leaders will reform the committees. So that is kind of the timeline for how all of those things will happen. And I see that all that nomination information has also been dropped in the chat. So we are asking for folks to share the nomination flyer, share our posts on social media. We do have it posted on LinkedIn and Instagram and potentially Facebook. Don't quote me on that. So that it's very easy for you to share this with all of the folks in your network who you think might be a good candidate. And with that, we did want to open the floor and provide a little bit of time for some of our current committee leaders to talk a little bit about their own experience. What has it been like to be, chair or vice chair? What would you like these future nominees to know about the role, the work you've done, your committee, or anything that you've learned about yourself through this experience? So with that, I will go ahead and mute myself and open the floor to some other folks to contribute.
If there's no order, I can speak first, Jordan. Oh, I see Shauna's hand up. Shauna, you can go as my chair.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, Kalina, you didn't have to, you can definitely, I'll go first. I thank you very much for that. Just wanted to get started just saying I love this committee. I love this organization. I knew from the first time I heard about Connect 313, bridging Detroit's digital divide, that this was something that I wanted to be a part of. It was new and it's innovative, and I think it continues to put us in Detroit, I say us as in Detroit, at the cusp of innovation and moving our city in a new direction towards progress and technology. And this was definitely something that I wanted to be a part of. For me, over the last couple of years, for those that don't know, I was vice chair of the Policy Advocacy and Ecosystem Committee in 2021. And then I was chair of the Policy Advocacy Ecosystem Committee in 2022. And I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest takeaway is just the relationships. Coming together with a group of like-minded people that are already out here doing work in different capacities, finding ways to give back has just been, it's the best time because you're working with people who are servant leaders, people that are out here for a cause, and every day and in everything that they do, they're committed to being impactful. And so, there were definitely, with Connect 313 being a fairly new organization, and, there's definitely been some growing pains and different things that, have come along with the part of the process. But I look at it as being a part of being that frontier. We're frontiers out here. We're creating new things, and those things were expected to be a part of it. So, I take everything with a grain of salt. And it's just been I think the biggest thing for me is to always be focused on why you're here. What's the purpose of you involving yourself? What's the purpose of you wanting to be a part of a committee like this? And what impact would you like to make? And as long as you keep that in front of you, then the work, kind of does itself. Because you hang in there, you stick in there, you connect with those that are there, and you lock arms with people, and you know that you're not in this by yourself. And so I have just been privileged to be able to work with Autumn and Josh and Micah, and most recently all year it's been amazing. My co-chair Kalina, and just a group of people from across the city of Detroit, the leadership that has come to the table to be a part of this has really just been a great experience, and has again widened my personal network of connections, as well as my professional network. And things like that. So, I could go on and on. If there's something specific you'd like me to answer, I'm happy to do so. But I definitely, wanted to share those sentiments because, you just have to be committed. You have to be ready to do the work. And then you always remember why, and then lean on the relationships that you create during this time to keep you supported. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lashana. That was fantastic. I think that really effectively answered the question of what would you like next year's nominees to know, about your experience. So, Kalina, did you want to say a few words?
Honestly, just echoing her sentiment. She said most of what I felt. And I think that just speaks to our rapport, as Lashana's vice chair. One of the things that I learned about myself was not to assume. I think Detroiters have so much on the horizon. There's this saying, about Detroiters coming back, but then there's also this community that knows we never left. There's been a lot of things that have sullied our, reputation and who we were, and we continue to be pioneers. The city has done a lot for not just this nation, but for the world with Motor City, beginning here, and that is pioneering and innovation in a nutshell. And with that, we understand directly correlating policy, advocacy, and ecosystem specifically. What that means for us is there's so much on the forefront that is closer than what we even understand with technology. And pioneering in policy, and what that's going to look like with EV tomorrow, not in the future. What that'll look like for advocacy for our Detroiters, and how we can be a part of that and not be invited to tables that we built here in this city, and then how that's impacting our ecosystem, our youth, and not just our youth for the future, but those who have laid the foundations for us in past, as far as our senior citizens and how we can stay connected through an ecosystem. So I would advise, as a future chairperson, to keep an open mind, to listen and make it very simple for the community to understand how to stay connected. I think tech itself can have an intimidating kind of connotation with it, where people may not feel like it has to do with them. And that's not true. It's not. Technology isn't a technical problem, it's a social opportunity. And so I think some of the growing pains that LaShawna spoke to are just that we found out there was so much. So it's a good problem, but for anybody to be involved, I would, if I could do it all over again, I would have more people. And so I could be more in depth, because my eyes were bigger than my stomach in so many aspects. And I say that in the most positive way, because optimistically, I just wanted to do it all. But there was only a couple of us, right? And I think we did things differently with blurring the lines, with the support of the other other committees. I think about how we cross-functioned with Shadora and Dr. Wade to make things happen. And it was so beautiful to see us all come together for Digital Inclusion Week, which wasn't pioneered by Policy Advocacy and Ecosystem alone, but was a concerted effort between everyone. And I think it should be like that go forward. So I would encourage you to get involved. There was so much that I learned personally and professionally that grew me where I am with Empower and just as a Detroiter. So it was the best experience to date this year that I've had just in this tech ecosystem from a professional standpoint.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Kalina. I think these are, all fantastic points. Paula, I see you've raised your hand.
Yes, and greetings, everyone. I'll just add briefly, because LaShawna and Kalina have really thoroughly explained it, but I will say, you all know I am excited about the work that we do. And to me, this is like the Super Bowl of technology. And that's how we have to think about it, that we are bringing digital learning and literacy and skilling to, and I'm the chair, I'm sorry, I should say that, chair of the Digital Literacy and Skilling Committee. And with that, we're bringing that digital learning, literacy, and skilling to Detroiters, so they won't be intimidated, so they will know they have a seat at the table, so they know they have a right to be there and they are engaged and informed. So if that's the committee for you, please join right in, and feel free to reach out to me. But the co-chair is Jamie Harris, and our fantastic management lead is Ms. Q Goss. And so it has been our pleasure to bring a number of suggestions to the table this year. And that was our goal, to make certain we did that. So thank you for that opportunity to speak.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Paula. And it looks like we do have Mr. Underwood on the line now, so we can go back to the recommendations, unless you wanted to say something about your experience, Mr. Underwood. I don't want to prevent you from speaking here.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I will just echo the same thing that I've heard other committee leads speak about. The opportunity is a tremendous opportunity to really get involved and learn. One, there's some things that you can learn about how to work together with other leaders, because everyone that is on my committee is a leader in their own right and what it is that they do within the organizations that they represent. Some business owners who are CEOs of large enterprise businesses and so forth. And so when you look at a leadership role and you look at how can you be effective leading individuals who are leaders in their own right, I think you have to really understand that you have to focus in most importantly, on the goal and objective of the work that you have before you. And that way you can keep everybody focused on the task at hand. There's a lot of work yet to be done in this work. As we look at the processes that we operate under within the Connect 313 initiative, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to bring about a more seamless process for whereby we can take suggestions and bring them to fruition in a very efficient and effective manner, and in a manner that allows all voices to be heard. I think we've got the makings of a great process, but there's some fine tuning that I believe we can do to make sure that we're more efficient and more timely with our work. The role of the Devices and Connectivity Committee is going to be very important in the future. One of the things that we look to kind of leave before we leave office, and I will make the announcement that I am not running for, I am the chair of the Devices and Connectivity Committee, but for the second year in a row, and I will not be rerunning, but I will continue to be a champion and an advocate for this work and be involved in whatever manner I can. But I'll step aside and allow others to have the opportunity to lead this great work. We do want to make sure before we leave office that we have a process in place whereby devices are going to be able to be obtained by individuals in need of a device. There needs to be a wider outreach beyond just our committee and just those who happen to be able to maybe put in a suggestion for a device. We need to be proactive in reaching out to those who are disenfranchised and disconnected and make a concerted effort to bring those devices and give them the opportunity to get connected in a meaningful way. And as our committee winds down, that's kind of what we're focused on as we leave. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. And that is perfect transition as I scoot on back to, this goes back to the beginning, the new council business, since you're already unmuted and ready to go. Just popping in. So I have the 3 recommendations. I've developed these slides based on the information that you provided. So just as a quick overview, we have one from Destined to Greatness, the Girls Tech to Greatness. We have Congress of Communities. And then I made the slide, the recommendation that you are just speaking about, into 8 slides. So I just wanted you to be aware that there's a lot of material because I thought it was also important to be able to cover. So I will hand this over to you to talk about these recommendations and, really open the floor to people's questions because we want to hear that community voice. We want it to be an equitable process and we want everybody to have a chance to chime in. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, the Destined for Greatness recommendation really is one that's kind of, I guess, it's a typical suggestion that we receive, and that's for devices. So organizations put forth the work that they're doing. They say, this is what we're doing in the community. In this particular case, these are young ladies that I think are between the age of 11 and 18, if I'm not mistaken. And these young ladies, are being shown how to, just to be young ladies, and it's kind of a peer-to-peer a group that meets to talk about issues and talk about things that are important to this particular demographic. And in one of the suggestions in their recommendation, they asked, if you will, for devices so that they can actually, in this case is 25 laptops, so that they can actually have some of the girls who are very technology savvy assist some of the other girls who aren't. What they've noticed that within their organization is that the majority of the young ladies have their cell phones as their form of connecting to the internet and their way of actually doing digital work, if you will, so to speak. And we know that the cell phones they're a valuable tool, but that we need to go beyond that because there's a lot more that can be learned and garnered from a laptop type device or even a desktop. And in this case, they're requesting 25 laptops so that they can continue to do peer-to-peer youth-led training, if you will, where they actually have some of the girls who are very technology savvy assist others who aren't and understanding how to use the technology tool, how to navigate, how to do searching, how to do a number of things with the tool. We're not, our committee is one that really believes that we should not be evaluating whether or not the work that a organization is doing in the community deserves a laptop. I'll give you an example. There is one that I think is another recommendation that's coming forth. There was a recommendation that came from an organization down in Southwest Detroit, where they had just purchased a home and they had started remodeling the home and turning it into more of a community, if you will. I won't call it a community center, but a gathering place for young people and for adults, if you will, to come and learn different things in regards to technology and just a lot of different opportunities to learn things. And they requested some devices from us. The first thing that I thought is I'm familiar with an organization down in Southwest Detroit that is very youth organized and very youth focused. And they too, and I thought the first thing that I said to my committee is like, well, we already have an organization down in Southwest Detroit that does great work in this area. Maybe we should have the two of them talk. Well, I got pushback on that, right? I got pushback because it's to say, well, who's to say that that one organization that I'm speaking about is any better prepared to do this work than the one who's requesting these devices? We did not want to be in the center of evaluating an organization's capabilities and determining whether or not they should collaborate with someone else to reach what it is their goal was. So we decided that if an organization has a program that is focused in on educating, access to healthcare, access to economic employment opportunities, access to creativity and cultural awareness, that they are deserving of these devices like any other organization that's already out there and existing. So I got pushback from my committee, and I really appreciated that, because that is who we are. We're not supposed to be in the business of evaluating someone's capabilities over another organization's. More so, we should be evaluating whether or not the request is a valid request, and if it meets the criteria which we feel that we have set as the criteria to make determination on device distribution. And so this organization meets that, and they're in a particular zip codes that really could use these devices. And so we say, yay, and let's get them the devices. And so we did approve for this recommendation. If there's any questions, I'm here to answer.
Yeah, I see that we got one in the chat, somebody interested in learning more about Destined for Greatness. So Taquine, thank you for dropping that link. And it's actually run by one of our community ambassadors, Shadora Ford. So we are really excited to see this recommendation coming through, and we can absolutely connect anybody with Shadora if they're interested in learning more. But Taquine, I think I saw your hand raised. I just want to pause for questions before moving on to anything else.
Yes, thank you, David, for this. And sorry, I'm just popping in, but I guess I'm popping in right on time. Hello, everybody. So I, yes, definitely love Destined for Greatness. And so I have a couple comments, but then a couple of questions and maybe a request. I don't know how this will work. I think that this is definitely important, definitely needed. My only concern is the amount. When we look at what they're asking to do, having people, the girls use their time to train the other girls. When we think about devices and everything it takes to run a device and keep it, secure and all of that, I'm not sure that $15,000 is enough. And so I'm curious if we have capacity to discuss doing a higher grant amount. I think 25 laptops, if that's what they're requesting, that's fine. But right now that's about $600 per laptop. And if we get like good laptops with like whatever antivirus software. We usually want to cushion in a small percentage for like if one breaks, getting it fixed, or things like that. So I'm just concerned that the amount isn't high enough, and then also potential for paying, even if they're small stipends, but paying the trainers or that trainee, that peer-to-peer work that they're doing, I think will be important. And has other implications around getting young Black girls involved in tech careers, but we'll say that for another day. But that's my only concern here, is that I don't think that this is enough. But I'm all for it. And I definitely believe that all of our tech hubs, our ambassadors, should have access to devices. To David's point, I'm so glad that you shared that experience that you got as far as pushback. It shouldn't just be a few organizations that have resources. I think our goal is to make sure that every organization that's doing the work has what they need to be successful. I do have a question. In addition to everything I just said, I have a question about a similar proposal that we had. Sorry. And I just wanted to know if we ever picked up that proposal, because there was a similar proposal to do, like, I think it was $1 million. It was a large grant to get devices. And I didn't know if that was on hold. So
Yes.
That's my response.
Okay, perfect. I just want to jump in right before David responds to these questions with 2 points. One, the cost, David, just so you know why this number is on the slide. I just used the proposed numbers that were in recommendation 3 of $450 to $550. $550 per device, and then added I just padded that with like tax and shipping and stuff. So that's where the number 15K comes from, is assuming that it would be $550 of device and then $50 of tax, shipping, whatever. So if you do feel like that number needs to be increased to incorporate more things, we can work through that in the actual recommendation form. If that's something that that this group believes that we should pursue, that's absolutely a tweak that can be made before this recommendation goes to Joint Assembly. Second point, that's actually recommendation number 3. They made some major tweaks to it. So we will have plenty of time to go into that, but I just wanted to jump in and make sure that that information was available, especially because David might genuinely not know why it says 15K. So with that, David, do you want to respond?
Well, no, I think Taquan's points are valid. When we look at all the different things that we can wrap around a distribution of devices, there are a number of things that we can wrap around that. I do know we have other committees such as digital literacy and skilling, and that has put together some procedures and processes whereby training opportunities are available and so forth. So I think it's more of a collaboration between the two committees and understanding within the process that I'm going to go through maybe in suggestion 3, when devices are distributed, how are devices distributed and what are the ancillary services and support things that go along with a distribution of devices. I think that is something that definitely needs to be worked out and covered. And we did, if you will, look at when you talk about our suggestion number 3, we did include within the purchase of the particular devices that we looked at, that there would be a package for Microsoft type Office, so that you have applications like Excel and Word and PowerPoint. And then, we also looked at a couple of things like antivirus and so forth. So they were some particular, I don't know what you call them, other things added to just simply the cost of the product that actually entailed giving some of those items that you talked about, Taquan. And I think, again, the literacy, skilling, and so forth committee could really add a lot of value in suggestion number 3 that we'll go through, so that we have a seamless process to make sure that we're meeting the needs of those organizations that we are distributing devices to.
Awesome. Thank you. Uh, just looking in the chat, yeah, definitely seeing a lot of folks, giving a +1 to these ideas and making sure that there are, additional resources like free copies of Microsoft Office and things that we can add to this. So we can definitely tweak this recommendation a little bit before it goes to the Joint Assembly. To incorporate some of those things, and definitely, we can do this via email. Link up Paula and the Digital Literacy and Skilling Committee to really make sure that we're building everyone's ideas into this really solid recommendation, because I think everybody feels really good about this one. So we can go ahead and move on to recommendation number 2, which is very similar. Also, just explaining again where I got the number from that I've put at the bottom of this. I just looked at the things that you said your committee wanted to cover out of the budget, and I just added those things together. So that's why it says 7,200. And again, just like padded it just a little bit for, delivery and those kind of things. But I just picked out the things that you said your committee wanted to fund. So with that, I will pass it back to you, David.
Okay, well, this is the organization I just spoke about when I talked about Congress of Communities, grassroots nonprofit down in Southwest Detroit. They actually have purchased a home, and then they started rehabbing and fixing up the home to kind of turn it into a community meeting place for young people and adults to be able to get services and support. And again, not wanting to hold up anybody that's doing great work in our community as long as they're a viable organization, meeting the needs of the folks that we look to serve. We did not want to get into the habit of trying to say whether this organization or the Hispanic organization that I was speaking about, we don't want to have to try to tell them that they need to collaborate or they need to check with this group or that group, because they each have their own way of doing work and serving the community. And we want to recognize and acknowledge that everyone has the ability to add value in this process. So therefore, this was for young people in the computer labs to be able to do homework and all that. And of course, it meets all of our criteria around education and access to healthcare for the adults that they look to serve in this particular location. And so it was another no-brainer for us. This particular request, however, I will bring it out that in their budget, that they had a lot of audio and visual requests, such as microphones, large screen TVs, and different things to be a gaming, Nintendo gaming consoles, and there was quite a bit of items that they had in their budget to really turn this location into a youth center, if you will, in every sense of the word, to be able to do social media and all kinds of things that they're looking to do. But we did not approve for other audio, visual, and other equipment, simply because we're in the devices and connectivity business. In our opinion, if we open that door, then every organization that would want to be able to set up a studio for doing films or any other can come to us and say, we need cameras so our students can do filming, and we need this and that. And that could get into something way beyond the scope of what we think our work was to do. We are to connect people to the internet utilizing devices such as laptops and desktops. And we kind of want to stay in that lane for right now, unless this work expands to something larger. And until then, we're going to stay in our lane. So the only thing that we approved out of this recommendation was the devices, which was in their budget. And that's what we have here. So any questions?
Just pause for a moment. Yes, I do see just another comment, making sure that if possible, including a maintenance plan or, warranty or something, in case the devices like break, that we might want to consider including that in these costs. But yes, there's also agreement that we do not need to be paying for like AV equipment at this point. So it sounds like folks are also in favor of this. And again, we can, revisit the exact amounts before these recommendations go to the Joint Assembly to just make sure that we're covering the things that we want to be covering and that we're, we have a good rationale as to why they are maybe not receiving the, big screen TVs and Nintendos that they have asked for. Oh, I see a great question. Angie is asking if this is a tech hub. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why we couldn't include them in the tech hub network. Just checking to see who's on this call right now. If Autumn or Micah or Naima wants to put in an opinion here. But I don't see why not.
I think can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, Micah.
Hey, I am driving, so I don't know if my audio is gonna go in and out or not, but
No worries.
I think that with regard to an organization becoming a formal Connect 313 Tech Hub, which is more than just funding, I think that we should continue to follow like the process that we've created for tech hubs specifically. But we also did indicate that in our, like on our Connect 313 website, that we would list organizations that functionally serve as like tech hubs, like libraries and other community spaces that have open like computer labs. So I think it's a yes and, but I do think it's something that we, probably should spend some time noodling on, like if we will consider funding requests for organizations who essentially want to create technology hubs.
Yeah, thank you for that, Micah. So I think that's definitely something we can continue to explore, but in the short term, we will be treating this as its own recommendation. And moving forward, so into the a little bit more lengthy one, and I apologize for how I have made this very long, but I wanted to make sure that I captured all of the great intel that you provided, David, from your committee, because there's a lot of really good material here. So if you have any questions about anything, I just tried to basically put the whole recommendation onto slides. And we can just pop through these. So I'll hand that back to you, David.
All right. Well, thank you, Jordan. As we know, the mission of our Devices and Connectivity Committee has been to see that the residents of the city of Detroit have access to technology devices that connect them to what's important for their desired quality of life. And the purpose, the Devices Committee has developed a process whereby both individuals and organizations can request a computer through Connect 313's funding. So this particular recommendation came from our committee, and because we really felt that we wanted to be more proactive in advocating and championing the cause of connecting those who are underserved. And so sometimes there's a lot of folks that don't even know about Connect 313. I'll kind of like take a little sidestep here. I get on a lot of the city updates in the evenings that happen at 5 o'clock in the evening in all the different districts. And then I go across districts. I do all the committee conversations that I can if I'm available. And there was a conversation about the ARPA funds and the digital divide in the city of Detroit came up. And there was probably 150 people on this call this day. And they talked about it very extensively. And I was just like kind of blown away that some of the comments and questions, it seemed as though they had no idea that Connect 313 even existed. And so during that conversation, they talked about the money and how it was going to be utilized to bridge the digital divide. And one gentleman specifically got on there and he went on a rant about, there's nothing happening in the city to bridge the digital divide. And what is the city, how is the city going to use these funds to really help us that are disconnected, get connected? And he went on and on. And what was more amazing is that no one on the leadership side who was controlling the meeting mentioned Connect 313. To me, that's something that is for us to really put our arms around, because evidently we're not reaching the grassroots. We're getting those individuals who are interested in this work, but we need to get those who don't even know about this work that really need our services and our support. And even though on that particular thing, I put something in the chat that I'm the chair of the Devices and Connectivity Committee, I'd like to speak to what the gentleman said. No one ever even acknowledged me. And so there's a lot of work yet to be done in this particular area. And so what we wanted to do is be proactive in that. And we're saying, let's go find those who need these devices and get devices in their hands. That's what this recommendation was about. Originally, we put it out there and we asked for 2,000 devices, and it cost somewhere between 1.1 million and 1.3 or $4 million. And it never really went before the board because there was a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of questions around that particular ask. So as we thought about it, we said, well, how can we make this more easy for the organization Connect 313 to swallow, so to speak, instead of thinking of 2,000 devices, $1 million of money being spent, and the devices having to be housed somewhere, who's going to house them, who's going to distribute them. All these questions started coming into play. So we revised this suggestion in a way based on some of our corporate experience where we use purchase orders. So what we're asking for in this particular request is that we do want to have access to devices in a large capacity, in a large way. But how we want to access this is not to spend money, excuse me, I'm sorry about that, not to spend all this money up front making a purchase of 2,000 computers, but to actually get approval, if you will, to have a budget in place that as requests for devices comes through, that we already have a budget that's been pre-approved that we can access through a purchase order to meet the need. As an example, we've had 2 requests so far that you have been shown, if you will, in this particular meeting. If we say yes and everyone's approved this, we'd like to be able to expeditiously get those devices out into the hands. So therefore, we need a process to do that. The process that we're recommending is that we actually have a budget set aside that will allow us to access devices for the reasons that we have thus far talked about: education, access to healthcare, access to employment, access to arts and cultural creativity. If they fit in that particular bucket, we want to be able to expeditiously fulfill those needs. So how that would work in this particular recommendation is that someone would put forth the request for devices. If in fact it is approved, and we have an actual form here that was, don't look at this as the end all form. This is a computer application for an individual. So say an individual in our community needed a device, they could go online and request this. Now, what we would do is that we would not deal with the individual directly. What we would do is we would ask the individual to find our computer partners, our distributing community partners, community-based organizations that we're partnering with. And we have 4 that have already agreed in theory to be a part of this process: Matrix Human Services, Salvation Army, Southwest Solutions, and who was the 4th? There was a 4th one. That are communities, connecting communities, or over on the west side on McGraw in Detroit. They also agreed. But I don't think any organization, Focus Hope, any organization that we go to, and these were the only ones I spoke to initially, but I'm sure that any organization that we speak to who serves the demographic of which we're trying to reach would happily agree to participate in this process, whereby therefore an individual can fill out an application, request access to a device. They would actually go to the organization that is closest or nearest them, if you will, submitting their form. And then that organization has their guidelines whereby that they would put that individual and make sure that they have meet certain criteria, such as has access to the internet. And if they don't, then we would use our ACP and all the other programs to make sure that we work with the individuals to get connected. We would also want to make sure that they have digital literacy to be able to utilize the device. So there would be some form, I think the Digital Literacy Committee has a basic educational type training that we would want to incorporate in our process, whereby now once they've completed those particular things, then therefore they're now available to get their device. The organization can request devices from us by filling out the organization's request form, and therefore they will go through their process. How we would get devices out is that we would want this committee to pre-approve vendors, that there's a process whereby there's vendors who sell devices, that they go through a pre-approval process and get on our vendors list for pre-approved vendors that we can go to for devices that need to be purchased. And therefore, when a request comes in for 25 devices, that request can go out to the pre-approved vendors list and ask those individuals to bid on, or if you will, put in their particular bid for this project. And we would actually have the committee would make a selection and determine, what vendors get the particular bid in this particular case. And so therefore, we have a check and balance because the vendors would have to go through the vendor pre-approved process. So therefore, there's no favoritism. They would all be given the same opportunities to bid on any particular devices that are going out there. And then we would actually have an opportunity to award the bid. And we can be very fair in that we can go across the bid list and making sure that those who we want to give special attention to, minorities, people of color, if you will, to make sure that they're getting the opportunity to pad, or if you will, to have economic gains for their businesses and to help support their businesses, that they're also included in this process. And that's kind of, in a nutshell, how we wanted to operate this, that it would be on a purchase order basis. We might have a budget of $1 million, say, sitting aside, but might only use maybe by half the year, you might have only used 150,000 of that budget. It's not that you spent all the money. And as those devices are purchased and come in, they're immediately sent out to the organizations that had requested it or the individuals that requested it. So therefore, you have no inventory sitting around unless that we decided that maybe there is a need for a small inventory. But this is where we're at. What we're really trying to ask for is the approval for the process so that we can fine tune it and then move forward to make it a viable process that we all agree with and we all buy into, and we think it's viable for the work we look to do. So that's the recommendation for device request in a nutshell. The measurements, of course, we would like to measure devices. One of the things my committee keeps asking us, how many devices have we distributed? That's important to us. If we're the devices and connectivity committee, how many people have we connected? How many devices have we distributed? That's something we can measure in this process. If we're more proactive, then we can really have some numbers that we can all be proud of to say that we've distributed over 1,500 devices into the community this year, and over 1,500 individuals have been able to connect to what's important to them in life. That's what it is, and that's what we're here for.
Perfect. Thank you so much for going through all of that. I do see some questions in the chat. uh, and I did want to highlight that also this year we approved the creation of the vendor policy. So we're definitely thinking about how we develop like those vendors of record, how we approve vendors. So a lot of those criteria have already been developed. So if this process moves forward, we would absolutely be able to kind of jump right into getting those vendors approved. Yeah, I'm seeing some great suggestions of things to add, like being able to get your devices from all of our tech hubs, which I think is a great idea. Incorporating that digital literacy playbook into the materials that people would receive, which is fantastic. Some questions around the ACP benefit towards devices. And just wanted to call out for folks that the low income qualification for the Affordable Connectivity Program is pretty stringent for a 2-person household, and the ACP can only be applied to the household once. The income limit, like total for the household for both people, is $36,620. So that's quite low. If your household is 1 person, I think it was something like $17,000. So it is a little bit difficult to be eligible for in a lot of cases. So I just wanted to throw that out
Can
there.
I intervene? Can I intervene a little bit? There are other qualifiers for ACP. So if you qualify for SNAP benefits, WIC, if your children get free lunch at school, free or reduced lunch at school, or several other qualifying factors, it's not only based on income.
Mhm. Thank you, Micah. Appreciate that. Yeah, SNAP,
Yeah, even if you
Medicaid,
get like a
HUD.
Pell Grant or something like that. So there are several qualifiers
Yes,
that make
thank
it
you.
accessible for people.
That is helpful. The question was about how do we make sure that the $100 credit, if folks are eligible for that, would be applied to this purchase, which it wouldn't be if United Way is the one purchasing the devices through this funding. So looking for ways to kind of maximize that credit would involve having that person within the household make the purchase. So I'm sure we can explore how we would be able to facilitate that, but I just wanted to provide that clarification that if Connect 313 is buying the devices, I don't believe that we would be able to access that $100 credit because we would be buying a thing and then giving it to the person. Were there other questions here? I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Yes, and if people didn't qualify for ACP, they could still apply for a device here. That's true. We could work with vendors who are able to use ACP and then give a voucher to those individuals on behalf of the individual to the vendor. Yes, these are all great ideas. But the overall recommendation here is that this process would be enacted, that we would be opening the doors to individuals to be able to apply for a device for themselves, and not just have suggestions go to from organizations rather about some kind of programmatic thing that they would want to do. So if there are any questions or concerns about that, or if we all feel good about bringing this to the Joint Assembly, because I for one, love this idea. I don't get a vote here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm seeing great idea. Everyone seems really excited about it. So thank you so much, Mr. Underwood, for all of the work that you have been pouring into this committee. We just really, really appreciate that and all the thinking that went into kind of revising this recommendation and making it a little bit more accessible, I guess, for the Joint Assembly and the board, and also for me personally, as the person at United Way who has to like actually submit the purchase orders for every time that we are spending money and buying things. So this actually makes my life so much easier. I really appreciate it. This is so good. So I've already talked through some of these pieces about the annual review and the election process. I know that there were a couple of other folks who had jumped on, so I just wanted to give one more open call. If there were any current committee leaders who wanted to talk about their experience, please feel free to raise your hand. I know we are right at, or we're after 3 o'clock. So Shadara, hi.
Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to talk through this. And just to echo what Lashana, Kalina, Dr. Paula, and David said, being the chair of special projects and shared resources was a great opportunity. I was able to meet a lot of people, a lot more of community people, and also people doing the work. Even from the Rocket Classic, right? From when Mike and all of us went out to the Rocket Classic, like it really expanded the work that we do as community leaders and in tech with, even those just playing golf. I met a guy from Staples. He was just like, yeah, I never knew about Connect 313, but I never knew no one had a computer. I never knew that people needed internet. Like, you're right. Like, how can I get in and join the fight? So getting people signed up and getting people aware who are not woke to simple struggles and simple barriers that people face was just like so eye-opening. Even to collaborate, and like Kalina said, with the DIY week, like that was so awesome. Like the Digital Inclusion Week was like everything, the research symposium, the time that we took out to look at that, even to design thinking with Dr. Naima. Like, it's just so many thoughts that's running through my head right now. And then being in the space today for the Tech Hubs, like more than half of the Tech Hubs leaders and everything have came and picked up their Tech Hub swag. And they are excited. They're like, we already got the outdoor banner out. We're gonna put this up today and we're gonna have this up by next week. So to see people just excited and to see all of the leaders and community people on this call today is very rewarding, and I'm excited. So if you want to join the Special Projects and Shared Resources Committee, if you want to join any of the committees, come on, join. And remember your why. Remember why you do the work you do and why the work you do will help others in the future.
Thank you, Shadora. That was an awesome recommendation. And speaking of Digital Inclusion Week, we wanted to play this video for you real quick. So I'm going to stop sharing my video to make sure that this actually works, and share the sound and optimize for video clip. And oh, is this not embedded anymore? Give me 1 second to find this actually. Sorry, David, calling on you again. David Luya, not David Underwood, sorry. Can you pull up that video and just drop it in the chat so I can have the link? I truly cannot find this right now.
Yep,
And
I'll pop it in right now.
Thank you. I thought it was embedded in this, and apparently it is not. No worries. While I'm doing that, just wanted to call out that tomorrow we have one of our community ambassadors hosting a digital resource day at the Greenhouse Apartments on Southfield. So Fadia is going to be hosting that event to continue to get the word out about all of the great work that's happening. So I wanted to do another open call to see if there were any other community events that we should be sharing out at this time. Anything else that people want to share?
I would like to share. This is Robin over at First Baptist Institutional Church. Greetings to everyone. Just to share that on Wednesdays, we now have what's called Senior Wednesdays. It begins at 11 a.m. It includes digital inclusion with a computer 101, as well as Intro to Typing and Computer Literacy 201. In addition to that, there is Fitness for Senior Citizens that happens at 11 a.m. because there's a full fitness center in our church. And then also there is nutritional classes and also support with doctors and therapists as well to support those who have been digitally divided as a result of the COVID isolation.
Awesome. Shadora, I see your hand is raised. Is that from earlier? Or did you have something you wanted to share that's going on? Other than, of course, Neighborhood Tech Pickup. If you're looking to pick up your stuff, we still have several slots, 4 to 6 p.m. today, slots tomorrow. I'll be there from 10 to 2 on Friday. So we, have more opportunities for people to come get their stuff. Okay, looks like, Angeline.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angeline Lawrence from TechTown. Just wanted to let you all know about our Jumpstart Your Business panel with our Ask an Expert volunteers on November the 16th from 6 to 7:30.
Awesome, thank you. And if anyone has any events going on and you want to share out a flyer, we will have a recap from this meeting, so we can share out any of those flyers or any information. At that point, if you want to just send it to info@connect313.org, we can absolutely incorporate those things. And let me, fingers crossed, see if I can get this to share with sound. Give me 1 second here.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Digital Inclusion Week.
It is our 4th annual Digital Inclusion Week. We're defining digital equity, we're convening partners. Our conversations have evolved from just talking about what is the digital divide to actually looking at what the future for Detroit looks like.
Internet access, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is a human right, just like the water you drink and the air you breathe.
This is a basic need now.
This isn't just about little Susie Q can't go to 6th grade remote learning class. This is about when you have high rates of disconnectivity, you actually pay more in social costs for everyone around them. What if we actually treated the people who were disconnected as humans who had something to contribute, whether it's their problem solving or their genius? What if we treated them as an opportunity instead of a problem?
Digital inclusion is everything. Digital inclusion is everywhere, and digital inclusion is for you. Sometimes citizens and residents don't see the digital inclusion conversation as one that they belong in or one that they're a part of. What we are trying to do is, 1, understand how to change that narrative, and 2, empower people to join the conversation.
The reason that this work is important to me is because I believe in the necessity of economic equity.
Just growing up here, we didn't have a lot of opportunity to get internet access when we left school. Like when I left Cass Tech after school, I didn't really have that opportunity. So the fact that we're able to impact the community is something that I will remember for the rest of my life.
I love this city. I was born here and I want to see the city succeed in a big way.
When you get the right people in the room, all collaborating around one cause that can truly make an impact in people's lives, then we're going to be able to create access to opportunity.
A lot of the way that we navigate our daily lives is online, and so we can't expect someone to be able to have a safe and stable and healthy home unless they have access to the digital world.
We're going to fix this. We're going to go from being the least connected city in the country to being the most connected city in the country, and I firmly believe that.
I'm proud of the work that Connect 313 and the City of Detroit continues to do to address this issue.
We are all in as a city. This is something that Detroit believes in.
What I'm most excited about with the High-Speed Internet Office, we've really defined our mission as creating a more digitally equitable Michigan, period, full stop.
Good morning, students. Welcome to Detroit Digital Inclusion Week. We're going to do some coding, and my hope is that you guys develop a love for technology.
Digital Inclusion Week
impacts our students because it allows them to engage in technology.
Digital inclusion for me means that it allows for all of us, the community, us as individuals, all to come together to be on the same platform.
We want you guys to understand that you belong in technology. Give me a round of applause. We're gonna have a good time.
This day of learning around digital literacy is so important to our students because it sparks an interest in the use of technology, it sparks an interest in learning more of how to navigate through different platforms.
It allows them to see how they need technology to move forward. That's important because they are our future. And if we don't get them involved and move the way of the world, we will be left behind.
Is this the best day ever? Yeah.
Didn't Robin do a great job with that? Our PR team really just knocked it out of the park with that one, and I am thrilled. What is happening? Can other people?
I hear you, but I don't see anything.
Right.
think-
Where did everybody go? We can hear you though.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I love watching that video every time it comes through, especially when we get to the part about the kids and just learning about tech.
We see you, Jordan.
Okay, I figured out what's happening.
You hear us,
Okay.
right?
Yes,
gotta
I
change
do
the view.
now. Okay, yes. For some reason, it went right into playing one of our past meetings. So I just heard my own voice saying like, welcome to the meeting. And I'm like, I'm not talking. Okay, let's just go back to what we were sharing previously and hop into the conclusion of our call today. So that is, all righty. Are you seeing slides again?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So we have some upcoming meetings. We just wanted to make sure that you were aware. Once again, our final Connect 313 meeting of the year is our community conversation on December 8th at 2 p.m. at our regular meeting time. We are looking to move these into a hybrid meeting structure next year. So we are absolutely looking for organizations who are interested in hosting our community conversations. We are looking to move those to be outside of regular work hours. So we would be looking for organizations who can host more community-facing meetings at times when folks who do not do this work professionally could actually attend and participate. So more like the evening meetings that the city council hosts, evenings, weekends, just a time that is outside of kind of the regular 9 to 5, we would be looking to host those community conversations. So if you're interested in hosting one of those, absolutely, please let us know. But this will be at our regularly scheduled time. And the focus of this community conversation will be two things. It will be some of the results of our annual review. So kind of the highlights, everything that we've been beginning to learn from those meetings. And it will be an opportunity for all of the candidates who have nominated themselves for the election process to speak a little bit about, why they're interested, why they think they're a good fit, why they selected that committee. So that will be the purpose of our final community conversation of the year. And then just, continuing to reiterate that we do have a board meeting in a couple of days, where that will be our final board meeting of the year. And then we have our final joint assembly meeting of the year on December 1st, where we will be showcasing the recommendations that were brought forth today. So we only have a little bit of time to be able to kind of tweak those recommendations, get them in their final form, and then get those in front of the joint assembly. So especially the ones that are under 50K, those decisions can be made right away. And then anything beyond that point will go to the board in early 2023. And with that, thank you everyone for attending today's meeting. We really appreciate it. This was some great conversation. We got some really good feedback on our recommendations today, so I'm really excited about that. And we really appreciate all of you being here and participating in everything that Connect 313 does. So with that, we actually did take our whole 90 minutes. If there are any questions that anybody has, we will open the floor for that. We'll continue to drop those resources in the chat as we promote our nomination process. And we will see you all soon at our community conversation in December. And